Hello and welcome to the Python Flask video tutorial. Today we'll be creating a basic program to demonstrate some of the functionality of the popular Flask micro framework. We're going to start by creating an empty folder to contain our Flask application. I'm going to right click on the desktop and create a new folder. I'm going to name this folder Hello World. Inside this folder I'm going to create one file. This file will be the one and only Python module for this particular project. I like to work in the shell, so I'm going to open a terminal in this folder. Now that we're in the bash shell, we can use bash commands. List shows that this folder is currently empty. Inside this folder, we're going to create that Python module. I'm going to name it helloworld.py. I'm going to use Sublime text editor. You can use any text editor. Sublime hello world. Let's use camel case on this one. .py, as it is a Python file. Now that we've got this file, I'm going to do Control S to save it. First line of our program is going to be a basic import statement. From the Flask package, we will import the Flask Flask class. Next thing we're going to want to do is create an instance of that class. We'll call ours app. We're going to set app equal to Flask, and Flask does accept an argument. That argument is the name of the current module. We're going to use a special variable, dunder name. Dunder name is a special variable which is set by Python. If the module is executed directly, called directly, then name is set to main. Otherwise, it is set to the name of the module. So this is pretty standard. We're also going to add a little bit more boilerplate code. Specifically, we're going to have an if statement. If dunder name is equal to the string dunder main, double underscore main, then we're going to execute the following line of code, which is app.run. And this accepts an optional keyword argument, which is debug. We're going to set that equal to true. Be sure to capitalize true, as this is Python. And so what that does is it tests to see if this module was executed directly. If it was, then this line of code will be executed. Otherwise, if this module is used as part of an import statement into another module, name will be set to the name of the module, which will not be main, and that line of code will not be executed. Now to demonstrate some of the basic functionality of the WSGI, the Flask Web Server Gateway Interface, we're going to add a route. The route is going to be decorated, so we're going to add a decorator at app.route, and we're going to provide a string, which is just going to be a /. That's going to be the root URI of our web application. So whenever the server receives a request at that URI, at that endpoint, it will execute the decorated function below. So we're going to define that function. This is going to be a view function. I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call it home, and I'm going to specify in the body just a real basic return statement. We're just going to return a string, which is going to be hello world. And that right there should be our program. I'm going to go ahead and save that, Control S. We're going to jump back over to the terminal. We're going to check out the contents of our directory. You can see we now have one file, the helloworld.py file, which contains an instance of a Flask app, contains one route with the / endpoint. And let's go ahead and run that. I'm going to run that with a Python interpreter, and I'm going to provide it with the file name helloworld.py. You can see here we've got a typo. This is a common mistake, easy to make. I do it all the time. I don't like to admit it. Now that we've fixed that, let's try it again. Control S, save, and let's run it again. So we now have the server running, Flask app server. It's running on this address. We've got the IP address of the local host, which is 127.0.0.1, and we have the port, which is port 5000. Now we're going to attempt to access that, we're going to test out our web application. Open up a browser, go ahead and navigate to that URI. We're going to use an alias, which is localhost and port 5000. Just basic anatomy point here is an IP address and a port together constitute a socket, and that socket is the complete URI for our web application. So once again, we're using localhost, which is an alias for the 127.0.0.1, and we are going to specify the port 5000. And there you have it. Looks like our web app is running. It's been served by the server. Over here in the browser, we've got some basic information. You can see here that we hit the server with a GET request. HTTP hypertext was used here, and we have a 200 code response, which indicates a success. So we hit it with that GET request, and the server provided the client, us, in this case the browser, with HTML, which was then rendered and displayed. We can inspect this closer using Chrome Developer Tools, which you can bring up with a Control-Shift-I. You can see down here that we do in fact have HTML. You got the tags here. Between the body tags is our string, the hello world. Hello world is the string returned by our view function, which was at the root, the / endpoint. So that pretty much does it for our first tutorial here. Let's go ahead and wrap this one up so we can move on to something a little more interesting. All right, see you next time.